Hello, this is Development and Poverty 1910. It is a lecture about corruption, and the lecture is Corruption 2, whether corruption is oil or sand in the machinery. That's the question we're going to discuss. Some people claim that corruption is just good. It is an imitation of the market mechanism that you have too big bureaucratic sector in the country. So corruption will sort of speed up things. Will work as a sort of as a piece rate. You get paid the more you do. So you speed up a very heavy corrupt administration. Can therefore work fine. That is the claim that some people say. Others will say that no, it's not the case. They slow down the process in order to increase the willingness to pay, and that's why they can get more corrupt money, because they reduce the activity such that the willingness to pay for these things go up. So you can imagine, just to think about it, that you're going to enter an airplane. And it's a big airplane across the Atlantic, and you're going to fill it up. So corruption can be sort of speed up the process that you can pay, so that it's speeded up. You have many people would like to enter the plane, and you would like to take bribe from them if that is if this corrupt analogy holds. So that's one way. That is corruption as speed money, oil in the machinery. The other one is that you slow down, you create a queue. You say that there's a delays here, and not everybody is coming on board on the plane, and then you increase the willingness for each to enter. So these are different strategies, so to speak, for a corrupt administration. So now we are not thinking about whether they are corrupt or not. We are not considering an administration that is corrupt. And now it's more the consequences of this corruption for how they behave. And as an example, we're going to use, as in the handout, we're going to use the example where that it is a port administration, big ships coming into the port, and they are supposed to pay a fee to enter the port. The question is, how would the port authorities, if they are corrupt, how will they treat the situation in order to maximize their own corrupt incomes, the profits that they can illegally enhance or illegally extract, from the port administration? Will they sort of speed up the number of ships entering into the port to get a high pay, or will they slow it down so that the willingness for each ship owner to pay a high amount in order to enter the port goes up? And as usual, the answer is it depends. It depends on the situation. It depends in part on how higher level authorities can observe this port administration. And we're going to stick to this example and sort of extend or discuss it in the end as a more general phenomenon. So if they can see how many ships enter to the port, of course then they know how much money this port administration have to pay back to the higher level authorities, because each of them are paying, or should have paid, this fee to enter the port. If they don't know how many ships, it's difficult to have that kind of information for higher level authorities. There are many ports, and they can't have people monitoring every port. If that is the case, then the situation is different. So let us now draw a diagram, the usual trick that we have on this course, and to see how we can sort of make this situation come alive. So we draw a figure here, and we're going to, the whole discussion today is going to be related to this curve. On this horizontal axis, you have the number of of ships. That means the number of ships that enter into this harbor. There is a demand for entering the harbor. We draw that as this red curve here. If we have a low price, so this is the price or the fee that they I put it like this, a price that they're going to pay. That is the fee for entering the port, which is a substantial cost of running a commercial ship. So this is something important. So if you have a very low fee, then you will get a lot of ships that will come to your port rather than another one. If they come to your port, they unload the cargo, and it may be transported with trucks into the other cities of the country. So it makes sense to talk about that your port will attract more ships the lower the price that you charge. So that this is the situation. This red curve is something given from the ship owner's behavior. The lower the price, the higher the number of ships that will come to your port. So remember that we have discussed earlier in class that there's something called marginal revenues. Marginal revenues, that is how much the income increases when you move from 0 ships all the way here. We know that this must be, the marginal income must be a curve that goes something like this. It must be below, this is the demand curve, and this is demand, and this is the marginal income to the port administration. This is how much the income increases by, say, moving from here to a higher level of a number of ships. Then you increases your income with a little bit less than the previous increase led to. The reason is that when you allow more ships to come in, you have to lower the price for everybody that comes into your harbor. So it's this common price to enter the harbor, and that's why increasing the number of ships increases a lower income, increase in income than the demand price should indicate, because you have to lower the price for all the other ships that sort of you had thought about laying to the left of the last consideration that you made. So the marginal income is always less when you have a downward sloping demand curve. It's always less than the price. So that's why it goes like this. The authorities, higher level authorities, have sort of have demanded that there should be a tax. This is the tax or the fee to enter the port. So this is they plan, they have a tax that you should obey the rules. That means that every ship should pay this amount. Then the number of ships that enter should be equal to this level that I marked with a star here. And this is a properly honest system. This would be the case if everybody was honest in the port administration. Now we're going to distinguish between 2 cases. Case 1, then the higher level authorities, they can observe how many ships that enter the port. That means that the port administration, they have to give, for every ship that enter the port, they have to give the tax times the number of ships that enter. And the higher level authorities knows the number of ships that enter, so there's no way you can cheat on that. They don't know the demand curve. They don't know this diagram all in all. They know what the tax is, and they can see afterwards that 2,500 ships enter during this season. So they will know these things, what would then a corrupt administration do in the port? Well, for the corrupt administration in the port, this taxes that they have to pay to higher level authorities, that is just like a cost. So we see here the marginal income that the port takes in is much lower than the cost. So they would like to, as long as this marginal income is below the tax that they have to pay to higher level authorities, for every reduction in the number of ships that enter up to here, that will just increase the profits. The profit that goes to the port administration, the amount that they will actually steal through the corrupt system that they try to enforce. So this is said with other words. What will they do? Well, they will like to reduce the number of ships so you can increase the willingness to pay. And what is the optimal reduction? Well, that is just where the marginal income to this port equals the marginal cost. And the marginal income equals the marginal cost. A further expansion of number of ships counting from here, that will lead to a lower marginal income than the marginal tax. So this kind of corruption where they have to pay this tax to higher level authorities, that will generate the profit equal to, so this will be the price, let's call it P. This will be the price that they charge. It is higher than the tax. They pay more than the authorities, higher level authorities wanted them to charge. And the extra profits they obtain is just this hatched area here, namely the difference between the total price paid by the ship owner multiplied with the number of ships that enter. So this is a surplus, an extra tax that they charge, and this is the interest of the corrupt administration to do so in order to maximize the profits that goes to them. So in this case, this is like sand in the machinery. Because you reduce the number of ships in order to increase the willingness to pay to enter the port high enough that you generate the maximum, how should I say, the maximum corrupt profits or profits from corruption. And the exact number of ships that is optimal for you to enter, that is the number of ships where the marginal income just equals the tax that you have to pay to higher level authorities. So that was case one. It was sand in the machinery. Let's know how can we sort of illustrate case two, oil in the machinery, with a similar diagram. Well, in that case, we have to think that the higher level authorities, they don't know how many ships that enter into the port. That means that they have to pay something to higher level authorities, but it's something that the higher level authorities just can believe is true, but doesn't have to be true. So they can say that, well, we had a certain number of ships, and so here is the tax we collected, and if the higher level authority doesn't really know the situation, they maybe the best option is just to believe in them. What they actually hand in the money is not important here. It's the only important thing is that it is unrelated to the actual number of ships that enter into the harbor. That means that there is no cost of allowing more ships to come in to the port. So that means that you would like to increase the number of ships entering into the port because there's no cost associated with that, as long as there's no connection between what you pay to higher level authorities and the number of ships that actually enter, as long as this marginal income is positive. So here will be the optimal place to be. in this case marked with 2 stars. And you see now that the price that the ship owners have to pay is below, the way I draw it, is below. So this is P with 2 stars. Let's call this P with 1 star. This is 1 star, oil in the machinery. Sand in the machinery is with 2 stars. So this price is below the tax. So that means that they speed up. They take more ships than the authorities maybe had planned to do if they had any information or any reasonable guess on the demand. They have a lower price than the tax. They say to ship owners, come to our port. We just charge you half of the tax, or 2/3 of the tax, or whatever a P double star is. So this is speeding up. It is higher than, it's higher. Sorry, I did this this was the 1 star. So this is, how should I say, this is the plan of the authorities. I repeat this in a minute. Sorry, I wrote this in the wrong way. Okay, back to the case. In this case, they ask ship owners, come here, we only charge you 2/3 of the tax that authorities have leveled. They speed up the number of ships that they treat in the harbor, that they handle, and the result is corruption as an oil in the machinery. I'm really bad with these marks here, so let's forget about these numbers 1 and 2. Let's say sand in the machinery, that is 1 star. Oil in the machinery is 2 stars in the diagram here. Okay, sorry if I said it wrongly. So this is what the authorities, if they were completely honest and operated according to the planned intention of authorities, they should have been here. We see in one case, they speed up, they have more ships in the harbor. In the other case, there's a sand in the machinery. They withdraw, they speed, they slow down in order to increase the willingness to pay. So this is an example that I tell a story, whether they know the tax. This story is actually Vishnu's life. I have told a similar story before, so it's not very original in what I'm saying. But I think the principle behind this is of some general interest. In the case where corruption is oil in the machinery, you can easily have a situation like this, that you pay less than the intended price. That means that nobody that uses the harbor would make any complaints. They're just happy. We got it for a lower price. So why complain? In this case, however, when the oil is sand in the machinery, they complain because they pay more than they have to, and they know what the tax is, and they pay more than the tax in order to enter the harbor, and they have reasons to complain. In this case, it's very difficult when corruption is oil in the machinery. It's very difficult to survive if there's competition among ship owners to be honest. It's very difficult to behave in an honest way because all your competitors, they enter these ports, and this port in particular, at a much lower price than you do. And the cost of entering a harbor, as I've said, are very substantial cost for a ship's owner. Many ships, for example, you will see ships that pass the ports and don't go into the port in order to get the mail and things on board the boat. If you cross, say, around the Horn of Africa, there's a helicopter service in Cape Town, and they run helicopters out to the ships and dump the mail and get maybe new crew to the boat while the boat is moving. The one reason why they do all these rather expensive things is that it is very expensive to be in the harbor, they have to pay fees, and it's also very expensive to have to wait in the queue, because that's lost earnings for a ship. So these things are substantial costs, and there are reasons to sort of take this example seriously. In this case, maybe it is so that no honest ship owner would survive, because all the others pay less. If you insist that you're going to pay the tax, well, that is just a drag on the earnings of the company that you run, and it's difficult. In this case, you complain like all the others because you are paying a higher price. Here is more voice about corruption, while here it is completely silence, maybe because they have the feeling that they earn from the arrangement themselves. So these things, I think, are important. That when corruption functions as oil machinery, there can be no, how should you say, opposition against it, except for people who are sort of out to make the system honest again. But if there is a good reason to have the tax, maybe there's a good reason. Maybe it's because of safety, that you have to regulate the number of ships to around this level here in order to have a good safety or environmental concerns or whatever it is that they care about. Then of course there can be an additional cost in the sense that you violate these security arrangement and these environmental concerns that you should have done, but you don't do because of the corruption. But nevertheless, it is the case that maybe face very little opposition of the parties involved. Okay, that this is to illustrate that corruption can go both ways when it comes to activity. In both cases, it is destroying the administration, in the sense that a dishonest administration you can't use for much, because they are only out of filling their own pockets, and that is one tremendous cost of corruption, that you have an administration that you can't trust. Okay, thanks for now.